In this video, I'm going to be testing out these insanely cheap beef short ribs from Aldi. I will show you how to prepare them, cook them on the barbecue, and then assess if they're any good at all or a complete waste of money. I also have the equivalent but more expensive version from Morrisons, so it should be a fair test. These ribs clearly proved popular for Aldi because I went about 6 before I could find one. They're in the weekly specials section, and even in my 6th shop I was left with 1 rack of ribs to choose from. This is a shame because not all ribs are created equally, and I really wanted to choose the best possible one for this test. But you don't always get everything you want in life. If you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know that cheap supermarket barbecue meat is a little bit of me. So when I heard about these, I had to give them a go. Fellow YouTuber Bald BBQ UK has actually already done a video on these. I purposefully haven't watched it yet because I didn't want to bias my opinion when making this video. But I'm going to watch it as soon as I finish this video, and I'll leave a link in the description so you can too. Now, to test out these beef ribs properly, I'm going to compare them against these Morrisons ones that I bought. These are essentially exactly the same thing, 2 individual ribs from a supermarket. These, however, come in at $10.99 per kilogram rather than the Aldi version at $7.99 a kilogram, so definitely more expensive. So let's start off by unpacking the Aldi beef ribs and see what we're working with. While the marbling on the beef looks okay, these are a little bit thin, and in particular this vein of sort of fat running through the middle really concerns me. Normally you try and cut off any unrenderable fat like this down, but if I cut this off they'll literally just be a bone that I'm putting in the smoker. The second one's a little bit more promising, but still has quite a lot of hard fat on it, so I'm not seeing a lot of meat. But we'll see how we're looking after a quick trim. Now I'm going to prepare these in the same way that I would prepare any beef ribs that I normally do, so I'm going to start on the back and just cut through the membrane in a crisscross pattern. Next we're just going to identify and cut off any big bits of hard fat that won't render down. And I'm hoping this doesn't make up most of the rib. Then the idea is to repeat the same thing on the second rib. Once I'm finished, I take off those offcuts and put them in a dish. They're going to go on the smoker and render down for a bit of tallow. Now it's time for the Morrisons ribs. Let's see what we're working with. They look like bigger ribs from the outside, but looks can be deceiving. And indeed, when I take the large one out, I discover it is actually mostly bone. At this point, I'm a little bit worried if I'm going to get to eat at all today, or if the world's most spoilt dog is going to be in for one hell of a treat. Still, we are doing science here, so I will carry on. Even as I inspect the second Morrisons rib and find this big flap of silver skin on top, this is not a pretty rib. But, as is often the case with your meat, after a quick trim it looks a little bit bigger. So time to get these on a tray and ready for some seasoning. You can season your short ribs with whatever you'd like, but my classic go-to is salt, pepper and garlic. Just put equal amounts into a tub and give it a mix. And then we have some classic SPG rub, shaken, not stirred. Then it's time to give each rib the business. Don't be shy with your seasoning, give them a good covering, it's a long cook, they can take it. As always with barbecuing anything, we're going to cook to temperature, not time, so I'm going to put my Ninja wireless thermometer inside to keep an eye. That is, until I remember that it is Bluetooth, not wireless, and I'm going out for the day. So that'll be useless to me, and I'll have to put in my Traeger thermometer that's built in, which is over the Wi-Fi, so I can monitor that from my phone. For those keeping score, we've got the Morrisons ribs on the left and the Aldi on the right. And after about 4 hours or so, at 120 degrees Celsius, the alarm on my Traeger app goes off and tells me that they are 75 degrees internal. So I check these with my handheld thermometer and it agrees. They are all around 75 degrees, which means only one thing, it's time to wrap.
And this is just the beginning. I need a big change, help me feel like living. I need a big swing, home runs I'm hitting, and I'll never look back, moving on till I get it all.
Once fully wrapped, give them about another 2-3 hours until the probe says they are at 95 degrees, and then again check them with your handheld thermometer. You are both checking that they have in fact reached 95 degrees, but also just checking that they probe like butter. These ribs are giving me absolutely no resistance at all, so it's time to pull them off and take them inside for a well-earned rest. Then I just check on those trimmings that I took off, and they have nicely rendered down to create just a little bit of beef tallow, which I can use to pour over my ribs just before I serve. With slow cook cuts like this, rest time is super important. Do not miss this step. I just rest mine in a cool box if you haven't got a cool box. If you haven't got a cool box, you can wrap them up in kitchen towels, put them in your microwave or your oven because these are already insulated, and leave them for At least an hour, really at least an hour, very least. Doing this step also gives you massive flexibility because you can't really be late for your meal. It's just resting until you're ready to serve it. In my case, I was ready to eat around 2.5 hours after I put them in the cool box, so I take them out and get ready for slicing. These are smelling absolutely amazing, and I know by the probe that they are nice and soft, so the only question really is did they have enough meat on them to turn out any good, and if so, which one turned out best? So let's unwrap the Aldi ones first and see how we've done. Now, you do always expect the meat that was on the rib to sort of tense up and rise a little bit, which is exactly what's happened here. However, there is very little meat left on this thing. It was the smaller of the two, so hopefully the second will be a little bit better, and yeah, it is a little bit better, not a lot better. I know these things will look better on the inside than they do on the outside, but I'm still pretty disappointed at this point with the amount of meat that are on there. Let's hope Morrisons done a little bit better with their more expensive rib. Now, the first one, yeah, there's a bit more, but it did start with a bit more. Honestly, I think it's pretty much the same result, it was just from bigger rib. Now for my massive bone rib, and actually there was a fair bit of meat on there, so I'm quite happy that at least I'm going to get to eat a nice rib. Pour over the tallow, give it a little bit of shine, and moisten it all up a little bit, and we have our 4 ribs ready for testing. Now, I'm most pleased with this one from Morrisons, but again, it did cost me twice as much. The one from Aldi, it's just a little bit anemic, isn't it? I mean, I really wish I'd had a better choice. But the verdict's not in yet. Let's set up the camera and see what it's like when I slice into them. Right, now confession time, I accidentally pressed the stop instead of the record button. Regular viewers will know that last time I did this, I apologised by putting some stock footage of women playing beach volleyball in bikinis on the screen for your enjoyment. However, that did receive a few very negative comments, so to fix that issue, I've now put some women on the screen doing engineering. I hope you enjoy. Now, luckily, I did get some footage of the actual Aldi beef rib chopped up, otherwise this video would have been completely pointless. And it's looking a little bit scraggly there. Don't get me wrong, these bites look tasty, but they're a little bit small. Let's see how Morrisons compares. I will start with the smaller of the two, and the bone just slips right out, which is a good sign. Slice it up, and okay, this is a little bit better. It's not the biggest rib I've ever had, but looks tasty, looks okay. Now time for the beast, which, to be fair, was a lot of bone, but I'm hoping for good things because I really would like to eat today. And yes, as expected, this is probably the best of the bunch. Sometimes I think Mrs. Barbecue's right, and size really does matter. Don't get me wrong, it still doesn't compare to a Costco rib, which is my usual go-to, but no, that's okay as a cross-section. It'll be tasty. So, at the end of it, I've got my pile of Morrisons ribs, which, they're okay, you know, they're not all perfect, they're not the best, but they'll do. And then I compare it to my Aldi ribs on the left, and really, they're looking a little bit scraggly, and I would be a little bit disappointed if this was the only thing I was going to eat and this was my main meal. Now, the Morrisons ribs were bigger, and they did cost twice as much. Are they twice as good? Well, it's really hard to compare like that because half of the Aldi ribs were pretty inedible, if I'm absolutely honest. The meat that was on them was good, so if you can find some decent sized ones, I think they're worth having a go at. So to be 100% honest, I wasn't fully sure I was going to get a full meal out of these ribs because I could see how small they were. So made myself a Chinese and added these onto the noodles as just a bit of an extra. So in conclusion, are the Aldi beef short ribs worth a go? Well, if you find ones like I did, then no. But if you want to see some beef ribs that are worth your money and how to cook them, then watch this video next.